Hello, everyone. Welcome. A lot of familiar faces. Welcome. Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for being on the call today. This is a really challenging time, and everyone knows this should have been orientation day in Israel, in the foothills of Jerusalem, and this should have been the first day of a really exciting, adventurous bicycle ride we've all been planning for, to support peace building and cooperation. So it's really shocking now to be watching a war unfold, and a gruesome war, and it's painful and shocking on so many levels. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and acknowledge that there's a lot of heavy hearts and tenderness here. And that's one of the reasons we want to have this call, is to join together as a community, as the Israel Ride 2023 community, to keep in touch, to connect, to ask questions and stay informed together. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to my colleague who you would have met in Israel. She's new to the ride. It's her first year, and she is the Israel Ride director. Her name is Gal Nakdimon, and she just wants to say hi. And although you won't meet her in person this year, you'll get to meet her now.
Hi, everybody. I just wanted to introduce myself and say how sorry I am. I won't get to meet you face to face this year, but I'm looking forward to next year, and we've already started working on it. And that's it, just for peaceful days.
Amen. Thank you, Gal.
Bye.
Hi, everyone. I'm just going to introduce Tareq really quickly. So I'm Rachel Calico. I know some of you, Chief Development Officer with Friends of the Arava, and was looking forward to seeing many of you again and meeting some of you in person today. Tareq is the Executive Director of the Arava Institute. Many of you know him. He's been with the Institute since 2008. When he launched our Center for Renewable Energy, he became our Executive Director 2 years ago. He's known as a regional expert in environmental diplomacy and regional cooperation. He's worked with the Israeli government as deputy scientist and acting chief scientist of the Ministry of Science, and has degrees in engineering and a PhD in engineering. And he's going to share, and he lives in East Jerusalem. He splits his time between East Jerusalem with his family and the kibbutz in the south of Israel, going back and forth where the Arava Institute is. And he's going to share with all of us what's happening now and the impact that everything you have done, that your fundraising and work does to support the Institute. So I want to turn it over to Tareq. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you, Rachel. Hi, everyone. It's really sad that we are having this on Zoom, and we were supposed probably at this time of this day to have the first dinner together in Israel. I'm currently in East Jerusalem, where the tension, the sadness is filling every space. What happened on the 7th of October impacted everyone in this region. I will not ask you, or I will not say I hope that you beloved ones in Israel are safe, because the whole country is one family, and we all shocked on what happened before 18 days. It's horrible. Neither the brain nor the heart can handle what happened. The Arava Institute is an academic and research institution that advances cross-border environmental cooperation in the face of the political conflict. We use science, we use environment as a diplomacy tool to connect between people, to produce the future leaders of this region, to lead the region, to solve the region's environmental challenges. We do this work in order to prevent wars. We use the science, we use the dialogue to build understanding of the other, to give students, researchers, and partners the opportunity to see the human in the other, not to look at each other in this region as enemies. And this is what we try to do to prevent the cycles of violence, killing civilians, or not to see what happened in the Gaza envelope. The Arava Institute is a kind of light in the middle of this darkness. And we do this work at the Arava Institute, not only to solve environmental challenges. No, as I said, to build the understanding that we need, understanding of the other through these projects, bringing people together to see the human in the other. The Arava Institute today is still functioning. The students are on campus, regardless or despite what happened on the 7th of October. It was shocking for all of our students. And as you know, the students at the Arava Institute, it's a mixed body. We have 1/3 Arabic speakers, Israeli Arabs, Palestinians from the West Bank. We have Israeli Jewish students, and we have international students. The program is still running. They still go to courses. We had to do some kind of like changes and modifications to continue run this program in a healthy way. And I have no doubt that you can imagine how difficult it is to keep such program, to keep Palestinians from the West Bank and Israelis, and some of them were called for the reserve duty to have such program running during these difficult days. And I wish I can open a window for all of you to see what's happening right now on campus, to see this community of students. I go to the Arava Institute 2 days a week since the 7th of October. I used to go like 4 or 5 days a week. And seeing these students together, what gives me the hope, and I see them as a shiny, bright star in the middle of this darkness. I wish we were able to have this ride, and toward the end of the ride, we used to spend like at least 2 days at the Arava Institute to meet the students, to meet the alumni, to meet the crew, which are alumni of the Arava Institute, because this place, the Arava Institute, is the hope that we want to see in this region. And I have no doubt, if I ask you, how do you envision Israel? How do you want to see Israel in the Middle East? I'm sure that your answer will be a country that lives in peace with its neighbors, including also the Palestinians in the West Bank and in Gaza. And this is what we're trying to do at the Arava Institute. I know that this seems very, very difficult, but we do not have any other option. We tried all kinds of like cycles of violence, cycles of operations, the war, but we all know that the sustainable solution for this region is the just peace for Israel and just peace for Israel's neighbors. And this is what we try to do at the Arava Institute. I'm saying these words in an atmosphere that is full of sadness. What happened is, I have no words to describe what happened on the 7th of October. But this is the hope that we want to see. This is the future that we want to see for Israel and for everyone who lives in this region. The atmosphere, the air is full of feelings of revenge. And what we try to do here at the Arava Institute, to keep that light of the candle on in the middle of this this darkness. We have partners in Gaza. We have alumni in Gaza. We have a lot of alumni that they are now in the Gaza envelope, in the army. We have partners in the Gaza envelope. We have partners in the Negev, in the West Bank, in Jordan, in Morocco. And we're trying now to focus only on humanitarian issues to keep the campus running, solidarity with our partners. And you can imagine how hard it is to send a message to a Gazan or to a friend or colleague or family member in the Gaza envelope. We send messages, and believe me, it takes like a few days for people to respond. And during these days, 3-4 days, you ask all of these kind of questions. Did they receive this message? Are they alive? And when you see the 2 V's in a WhatsApp message, that gives you the hope, okay, he's alive, or his phone or her phone is on. These are the circumstances that we are dealing with. And it's really heartwarming when you see a Palestinian student messaging his friend, a Palestinian from the West Bank, messaging his Israeli friend who is in the army, wishing him to be safe. To see an alumni, an Israeli Jewish alumni, messaging a Palestinian alumni in Gaza, hoping that he's safe and wishing him like a better place to be in, or just to make sure that they are safe. I mentioned that we have several projects in Gaza, and when we talk to our Gazan partners, we don't ask them about these projects. We want just to show solidarity, to be with each other. And I have no doubt that this place, the Arava Institute, is the only place in this region that still have that communication channel open between Israelis and Palestinians. All of them are responsive. We are in a daily, we communicate with our Gazan partners on a daily basis, with our partners in the Gaza envelope, in the Negev. And that's almost impossible during this difficult time. And why do we succeed in keeping this communication channel open? Because of what I just said. It's the campus of the Arava Institute, this community that builds understanding, that treats everyone as human. This trust, this understanding is the foundation of the Arava Institute. And because of that foundation of trust, we manage to keep these communication channels open with our partners in the whole region. It's difficult, it's really hard. We're focusing on the mental health of all of our students and partners. We had to do a lot of modifications and changes on the program to keep this program as healthy as possible. We are working very hard with our partners in the Negev, in the Bedouin communities, to help them on like just having better shelters, especially in the unrecognized villages. We have programs. We asked all of our research departments to focus now on humanitarian projects related to the Gaza envelope. Our students, Palestinians and Israelis, initiated campaigns to collect clothes, food for those who had to leave the Gaza envelope and come to the southern part of Israel, to the Arava, to Kibbutz Keturah, and to Eilat. And it's nothing like to see Palestinian student collecting clothes or collecting utensils, dishes, and to send to the Israeli people. And look, in the bike ride, you have a lot of breaks for lunch and for rest, and all the utensils, all the equipment that we have for the ride, we donated them to the people who had to leave the Gaza envelope or the northern parts of Israel and came down to the Arava region. And this is what we try to focus on these days. It's really difficult on a professional level and also in a personal level. I'm a Palestinian from East Jerusalem, and to send or to receive solidarity messages from a Palestinian or from a Jordanian or from Moroccan it means a lot to me. But when I receive a solidarity message from a Jewish friend in the US or in Israel, Tel Aviv, or even the Gaza envelope, that means the world to me. And this is what we're trying to focus on, this solidarity, to keep this hope alive, to keep this candle light. Look, the Arava Institute is, as I said, it's a shiny star in the middle of this darkness. And I assure all of you that the Arava Institute and the friends of the Arava Institute will make everything to make the Arava Institute not only a shiny star in the middle of the darkness, but also a sun that will lighten the whole region. This is the only sustainable solution for this part of the region. We do this work again not only for environmental purposes, but to keep this hope alive, to have this communication channel open, to use dialogue, to build and create the foundation for a just peace for everyone. It's a difficult time for all of us, but the Arava Institute has the experience to run such programs during these dark days. We need your support. We need your solidarity to keep this hope alive, to keep the students together. No student left the program, only those who were called by the universities from the US. The rest of the students are still on campus, Palestinians and Israelis. And believe me, they come together by their own decision without any intervention from the Arava Institute, because it's a community that discusses everything. And when the conflict happens, they decide to come together to work with each other, to keep this community alive. I will stop here. And if you have any questions or comments, I'll be more than happy to answer. And thank you very much for being with us. And I'm really sorry for not being able to see you in person. The bike ride is one of the highlight activities at the Institute. And I hope to see you in person in the US or next year on the ride.
So I know that, thank you, Tareq. Neil has questions and others have questions. I just want to pick up on a couple of things which Tareq said, which have struck me and just reinforced for me over these past couple of weeks why I'm doing this work and why I think the Arava Institute is so valuable. He talked about that the students are still on campus. The Palestinians and Israelis are living together on the kibbutz during this time and continue to be in dialogue. And with everything, I don't know what it's like for all of you, but for me, reading the newspaper requires a box of Kleenex right next to it. And see it and knowing that there's a place like the Institute where people are continuing to engage in this dialogue and see a path forward beyond this is hopeful and really important because it's happening now. And we know that our students, when they become alumni and they go out into the world, they take this experience with them. A few alumni started a WhatsApp group, which is translated to Messages of Solidarity. And it's a group that was started first with other alumni who were at the Institute, but now includes their friends and it's built out. It has Palestinians and Jordanians and Israeli Jews and Israeli Arabs. And the statements that they're sharing with each other are very powerful. One of the Israelis who posted in the group, who is not an alum of the Institute, lost their parents in the Hamas terrorist attack, but wrote in this WhatsApp group that it's just, in the midst of this tragedy, it's reinforced for them how important forums like this WhatsApp group and pursuing peace work and coexistence and dialogue is so important to move forward. And a similar message from a Palestinian in Gaza who posted in this WhatsApp group saying, this isn't going to solve anything. We need to be in dialogue with each other. We need to get to know each other. We need to build that relationship so that we can build a future together. And that's what the Institute is doing. And some of you have seen it from being on the ride. Some of you haven't yet. You've learned about it over the course of learning about the ride and fundraising for it. And I hope you'll join us next year. And I want to open it up for questions. Neil, I think you had a question.
I guess I unmute myself. First of all, I'm really sorry that I'm not in Jerusalem now. This ride is one of the high points of my year. Tareq, if I were there, I'd give you a big, big hug and tell you that we are one. And I mean that sincerely. I have two questions. They're both practical questions. First is it possible for the ride to issue, give us, or make a simple statement to our donors how their 2023 contributions will be used in light of October 7th and the war? Because in my emails to my donors before October 7th, I talked about the programming at the Arava Institute. I suspect that the funds may be used for a broader, more humanitarian needs, and it would be really, really helpful to be able to give them something authoritative so that I can tell them the funds you donated this year, which are going to go to the Arava, will be used this way, and then hopefully there'll be a ride and you'll support me next year. The second question I have is whether there's a way to communicate with alumni. I've been speaking with a lot of alumni, both Israeli Jews, Israeli Arabs, and Palestinians in West Bank. And apart from the sorrow and trauma, I think it's really important to communicate to all alumni to be really careful what social media they rely on for information. And for all of us to be really discreet in our posts, because words without a voice or body language can be easily misinterpreted. And we're not all on the kibbutz together now. So if we're going to stay together and support each other, we have to be really careful what we say and how we say it, but also where we get our information from and what we repeat, because it's very confusing out there. And I don't know how much communication there is with alumni now, but I can tell you that there's a lot of confusion. Those are my questions.
First of all, thank you so much. And I'm really sorry for not being able again to sit with you in person around a table or to have that hug. Let me start with the confusion that you mentioned, and I want to add to that the anger, the sadness, and people really having hard time to control their feelings. And this is what I'm telling my staff. It's not time to blame people on what they say. Let them just, believe, fume. And we just need to give that hug, to listen, and to understand these feelings. It's not time to blame. It's time of solidarity. For the fundraising element, I really thank you for that. And the Arava Institute is in a huge need this time for such fundraising and such money for not only the humanitarian projects that we are conducting right now, but also the trauma that you mentioned. We need to work very hard to overcome this trauma, not only for the staff of the Arava Institute, for the alumni, with the partners, with other peace organizations from both sides. And for your second question about the alumni, it's very important to really listen and hear what they feel and to talk about their experience at the Arava Institute and how that impacted their lives and how that helped them to maintain this balance of being in the army and caring about Palestinians, or being a Palestinian and caring about the army. It's really important, and we are planning to have a Zoom with those who are interested to hear what our alumni will say, and we'll keep you updated.
Andy Fisher, you want to ask a question?
Yeah, I need to show my face. I wanted to answer that Neil's saying, I see that Howie's on the call. Of course he's on the call, but I thought that I would jump in even before him and say, I'm committed to telling my donors that the Arava Institute is a shining light, and I'm kind of moved to tears by what Tareq is saying, and it's the first good tears I've had in days. The Arava Institute is what should be going on, not what's going on, and I'm moved to tell each of my donors that what you're doing is leaving a beacon of light in a time of darkness alive. And although we can't do the ride, I would like to contribute what you've given to this year's ride, and ask you again when I do this next year, because the Arava Institute needs it, and we need the Arava Institute. So I say that as an encouragement before Howie makes any pitch for other riders to do the same.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Very nice seeing you. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy and Neil. Thank you for your support of the Institute in this time. It's really, really important. Does anyone have any more questions for Tareq?
I had a quick question, Mel Simon.
Go ahead, Mel.
Thank you. Tareq, thank you for the presentation today, and the ability to connect with you on a day when we otherwise would have been connecting in Jerusalem. I too view the ride as a key part of my year, both in terms of my riding, but more importantly, my efforts with nonprofit organizations. This is one that's very dear to me. And I'm so thankful for the work that you do. And particularly at this moment, it's actually very emotional to know that we are connected as a community with what you do. You should know that we here in the United States, and I've been in touch with my donors, are very much concerned about your ability to continue the work that you do in these very challenging times. And I know that all of my donors are indicating full support to continue what they do for me and what they do for the Arava Institute. You mentioned in your presentation that the supplies that were gathered for the ride were donated, but I wasn't clear on where they were donated. That's because I'm taking notes, and it's something I want to communicate to my donors. Can you just tell us again exactly what has been done with those supplies?
Yeah, most of them went to actually one of the communities in the southern Arava. It's a neighborhood called Be'er Ora, where they have, it's not like a collective kibbutz. It's called kind of a moshav, that they don't have like, large major dining room. So we donated most of these to that neighborhood, to Be'er Ora in southern Arava.
Thank you.
Good question, Mel. I don't see everyone. If someone has their hand up, just feel free to unmute.
It's Neil again. So it's just, I didn't get a clear answer to my question. Is it possible to get some kind of memo to us from I know you guys have a lot to do, but just something that I can then use to put into a memo or an email to all my donors saying, this is where your money is being used for this year. That, I mean, that would be really helpful to me. Thank you, Howie.
Of course, of course.
Oh,
Yeah.
Want to turn it over to Howie now?
Yes, we will send that out. Neil, thanks for the question. All right, Howie, off to you.
So obviously, this is a very difficult moment for all of us. I think there are two groups of people here. Those of you who are RIDE alumni and were coming back, and those of you who this was going to be your first experience on the ride. And we know from the past that the experience really builds a relationship with the Arava Institute and with what the wonderful work that it does. And you as new riders haven't had that opportunity that a number of the veteran riders have had. And I hope you'll all have that opportunity next year. But now we come to the point where you know, we're not sitting in the hills of Jerusalem. We would many of us would be at the dinner at Abu Ghosh tonight, which would have been wonderful. And we need now to stand up for the Arava Institute and do that. The Israel Ride is not like a backroads ride. The Israel Ride is a charity ride. You've all signed up to help a charity, one that is just so important in this day and age, now more than ever. You've heard that from everyone. I always like to talk about my friend and the previous director of the Arava Institute, David Lair, always used to ask the question, what is the scarcest resource in the Middle East? And there are lots of things that come up. Most people jumped to the idea of water and water being a problem. But his response was no, the scarcest resource in the Middle East is trust. And what the Arava Institute does more than anything else is build trust among Palestinians and Israeli Jews and Israeli Arabs. And that work is going to be just so much more important when this war is over, and it'll be so much more necessary then. So we're asking all of you to consider to do the best that you can to allow us to take your fundraising and keep it for this year. If you haven't reached your fundraising minimum, or if for those of you who are planning to self-fund, as we have many people who have, we're asking you to consider doing that. If you like the fees that you have paid, your registration fees, your single room fees, your various other fees could be donated, which would be greatly appreciated. And the Arava Institute needs your help going forward. I've had conversations with about a dozen of you already who have agreed to leave their fundraising in place, and in some cases their fees as well. We will be in touch with each and every one of you over the next number of days to share with you just where you stand and talk to you about the best that you can do. I think you'll find that especially those of you who are first timers, that your donors will understand the fact that you weren't able to actually participate, so they weren't sponsoring your riding 300 miles. But they were sponsoring you, and they were sponsoring a great institution in Israel. We ask that you think really hard about it. I can tell you that personally, I've put everything that I put into 2023. It's not only that, but yesterday I sent out another 40 emails to the people who have donated to me over the years, saying now more than ever, it's important to support this amazing institution that many of us have called the best kept secret in the Middle East, for better and for worse. And we understand that maybe not everybody is capable of doing everything, but we ask you to reach sort of to the bottom of your hearts, given everything that's going on, and do the best you can so that we can continue to support this amazing institution for which the bike ride has been a foundation of its support for the last 20 years. And we will look forward to seeing all of you, or hopefully many of you, next year. We are going to open registration for the ride likely next week. And hope that we will have much better times by the time we get to next year. So thank you for your support over the years. Thank you to those of you, a number who are on this call, who have already agreed to leave all your fundraising with 2023. Just think about the future of the Middle East and the role that the trust that the Arava Institute creates can play going forward as you think about how to respond to our requests. And thank you. We will create some, over the next week, we'll have a few more Zoom sessions that will be some to just hear from some people who are in Israel and who have been associated with the ride, some to just allow people to come together. We're trying to put some where we'll have Arava Institute alumni and crew be able to share things. You have to understand that those things can be very difficult because there are difficult things going on. And I hope to see you all on Zoom as we go forward over the next year, and in Jerusalem in October 2024. Thank you. Any questions? So you will each be receiving an email with all your personal details and an opportunity to feedback to us what you can and want to do over the next couple of days.
Harry, I had a quick question. I was on mute for a second. I was curious, Rachel, if we could join that WhatsApp that you discussed, would it be of any benefit to that wider group to have Israel riders involved? Would it be of any benefit to us to at least hear the quality of what is being shared in that group, and so that we can push it out into our wider circles as something as an antidote to the narratives out there?
I can take it. No, so Neil, it's a really wonderful thought. It's a private group, and these types of conversations are, what we can do is we can share as appropriate, comments like those. And as Howie said, we want to bring other opportunities for you to connect with alumni and connect with others in the region who are in dialogue and doing this work. But I'm not sure that that's the right forum for us to be joining into. It's, there's a type of community that develops in those cases. Miriam, did you want to add to that? Oh.
You said what I would say.
Thanks, I get it.
Thanks.
So I have a question. Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Back to the people who donated and so forth. I was going to be a first-time rider, and I've received a lot of questions from the people I fundraised from. A lot of them aren't Jewish. And it was difficult to explain to people what the Institute really was. Some of the on the what do you call it, on the website, it didn't always come through a good explanation, and I was sending people emails to explain and so forth. When as far as the fundraising goes, is there any way, I don't know if you have the emails or the information of the people that actually donated, but to send, if you do, to send those people sort of a letter explaining what happened with, well, they know what happened with the ride, but about where the funds, if I were to leave all the funds, you know, how they will be used and how they were used, it would be really helpful to have to reach out individually and on one email to all those people. It just I wouldn't be able to communicate it correctly.
So
I
I think
we
what we'll do is, as Neil had talked about, we'll provide an email that talks about how the funds are going to be used and where it is, and we'll provide it to you instead of us necessarily sending it to every donor for everyone. And some people like to communicate in their own way, but then allow you to forward it to your donors. We'll send you we can also send a clip of the Tareq portion of this this call, which you may want to attach or include or send to your donors if you want to give them a sense, a little bit more of a sense of the RFI Institute.
That would be helpful. It was difficult
So
to explain.
I think it's our experience is that people want to have some level of input or control relative to their donors, because there are often sensitive situations.
Sure.
So we will send the information to you. You can through Classy, you should have all the emails and information on your donors, and so that you can forward it in a way that best suits you. But I think taking the 20 minutes or so of that Tareq spoke here, or part of that, and including that for you as a clip that you can send on, I think that's probably better than any just written material could be.
It's great.
On that point, I've always found it hard to use Classy to actually outreach, because you're forced to either respond to individuals who have made donations. Alana knows I've asked her many times for the full lists, and thank you for helping with that. But it is challenging to use Classy in that regard, possibly to create an update and maybe that gets blasted to everybody, but
and
there's an
right.
obstacle.
It is difficult. Anybody who wants an email list of their donors, because it can be difficult to pull that information, we can get that to you. And Classy is not always the best way to communicate, sort of doing it on your own. Classy is not the best system in the world, but it's everyone has its pluses and minuses, and that's where we've been for the last few years. So I don't use it to communicate with my donors, but we'll send you the information, and you can and for those of you who haven't reached your targets or your goals, I think there's plenty of good reason to continue to reach out to donors, and urge you to think about doing so. And again, we understand that everyone's situation is different. Everyone's financial situation is different. But I especially ask for people who are new riders to just consider what you can do to help us out, and understand that the people who supported you this year will understand why you didn't go and why you want to go next year. And do the best that you can, and we'll appreciate that. Any other?
David Jaffe. David.
Yeah, David Lair was invoked before, and one of the things that David, the former executive director, used to say that really struck me was that in doing our fundraising here, yes, we're asking, but we're also offering a gift to whoever we're asking for a donation, and this is a real opportunity to do that. So many people are struggling with how to help here, and we who know this institute, who've been on the bike ride, those of you who are first-time riders know something of the institute from what you've read, have an opportunity to reach out and really allow people to do something tangible to help improve the Middle East. That's what we've all been doing all this time. I found that when I sent out my last email explaining that the ride was off and doing another little pitch, I won't reiterate it here, it's what you've heard over this whole hour. I got more donations right after I sent that email, donations from people who hadn't contributed yet to our ride for this year, but who were on our donor base, kicked up and started sending in money. So I think that there's a real opportunity out there to just underscore what Howie had said.
Good.
Well, if there are anyone else, questions, comments, or we always like to be on time in the Israel ride because it's always a problem getting everybody there on time, and we have an opportunity to end on time if nobody else wants to come in and share anything. Well, thank you all, and I hope to see all of you a year from now in Jerusalem in a much better environment than we're in today. Inshallah.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you.